know, we talk about great inventions, we think of the wheel, or writing, maybe the printing press or the internet. These things change the world. They change how we live, how we work, how we think. But what if the most important invention wasn't a tool or a technology in that sense? Now, what if it was a process, a simple act that we do every day without a second thought? What if the most important invention ever was cooking? It sounds a bit strange. Cooking doesn't seem as monumental as splitting the atom. It's domestic, it's ordinary. But the argument for cooking is that it didn't just change what we do, it changed what we are. It's the invention that made us human. To understand this, we have to go back, way back. Before cities, before farming, before language itself. We have to look at our ancient ancestors and the problems they faced. Imagine being a hominin, one of our early ancestors, maybe 2 or 3 million years ago. Life is hard. Your entire day is about one thing, getting enough calories to survive until tomorrow. That's it. That's the whole game. What do you eat? You eat what you can find. Tough plants, roots, tubers, nuts. If you're lucky, you find a carcass and can scavenge some raw meat or marrow. Everything you eat is raw. This presents a huge problem. Raw food is difficult to process. Think about chewing a raw potato or a tough piece of uncooked steak. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of effort. Our ancestors had big, powerful jaws and large, flat molars specifically for this job. They were grinding machines. Fossil skulls show massive jaw muscles. They had to be strong because they were working all the time. Some scientists estimate that these early hominins spent 4 to 6 hours a day just chewing. Imagine that. A quarter of your waking life, or more, spent just grinding food in your mouth so you could swallow it. It leaves very little time for anything else. No time for tool making, for exploring, for social interaction, for thinking. Your day is foraging and chewing, and the chewing is only the first step. Once you swallow that raw food, your body has to work incredibly hard to digest it. A raw diet requires a very large and complex digestive system. Your stomach and intestines need to be big and powerful to break down tough plant fibers and raw proteins. A big gut is like a big engine. It consumes a huge amount of energy just to run. So here is the trap our ancestors were in. They spent most of their day gathering and chewing tough, low-quality food. The food they ate was hard to digest, and the digestive system they needed to process that food consumed a large portion of the very calories they were working so hard to get. It's an inefficient, exhausting cycle. There was another problem, a biological limit. There's something called the expensive tissue hypothesis. It's a simple idea. Your body has an energy budget. Every calorie you consume has to be spent on something. Running your muscles, fighting off disease, keeping warm. 2 of the most expensive organs in the body are the gut and the brain. A big brain requires a massive amount of energy. A big gut also requires a massive amount of energy. For a primate on a raw food diet, you can't have both. There just aren't enough calories to go around. You can have a big, powerful digestive system to process raw food, or you can have a big, complex brain. But you can't afford the energy for both. For millions of years, our ancestors chose the gut. They had to. Survival depended on getting nutrients from the tough food around them. Their brains were small, not much bigger than a modern chimpanzee's. They were trapped by their own biology, by the energy equation of a raw diet. Then something changed, something that would break the cycle and put our ancestors on a completely new evolutionary path. That something was fire. We don't know exactly when it happened. The evidence is scattered. Maybe 1.5 million years ago, maybe earlier, we don't know how it happened. It was probably an accident. A lightning strike ignites a dry bush. A curious hominin, instead of running away, gets closer. They learn that fire provides warmth. It provides light in the darkness. It keeps predators away. These were huge advantages on their own. The night was a terrifying time. A campfire would have been a circle of safety in a dangerous world. But the truly revolutionary step came later. Another accident, most likely. Maybe a piece of root fell into the fire, or a piece of scavenged meat was dropped in the embers. Someone pulled it out, dusted it off, and ate it. And everything changed. Cooking food with fire is a form of external digestion. The heat and flames do the work that our jaws and guts used to do. Think about what happens when you cook a piece of meat. The tough collagen that holds muscle fibers together dissolves into gelatin. The proteins unfold, or denature, making them far easier for our digestive enzymes to attack. Think about a potato. Raw, it's a ball of tightly packed, indigestible starch. When you cook it, those starch granules swell and burst, turning it into a soft, calorie-rich food that our bodies can absorb with little effort. The impact was immediate and profound. First, the chewing. Cooked food is softer. It requires far less time and effort to eat. Those hours and hours of daily grinding were reduced to maybe an hour. Suddenly, our ancestors had free time. Hours of it every single day. Time they didn't have before. Second, the energy. By pre-digesting food with fire, cooking unlocks far more of its nutritional value. The cooked meal delivers more calories, more protein, more nutrients than the exact same meal eaten raw. Our bodies don't have to work as hard to get the good stuff out. This means a net energy gain. Cooking essentially supercharged their diet. They were getting more bang for their buck with every single bite. This new energy-rich diet had a direct effect on our evolution. It completely rewrote our biological blueprint. Remember the expensive tissue hypothesis, the trade-off between the gut and the brain? Cooking tipped the scales. With food that was softer and easier to digest, we didn't need those massive jaws and giant teeth anymore. Over generations, our jaws began to shrink. Our teeth got smaller, our faces flattened. We started to look less like apes and more like modern humans. You can see this change clearly in the fossil record. The skulls of hominins after the likely adoption of fire are different, and the gut. Our digestive system didn't need to be so large and energy hungry anymore. The fire was doing half the work. So, our guts began to shrink. A smaller gut uses less energy. This freed up a huge surplus of calories in our body's energy budget. So where did all that saved energy go? It went to our heads. The extra energy from cooked food, combined with the energy saved by a smaller gut, was diverted to the most expensive organ of all, the brain. Around the time we see evidence of controlled fire, we also see a massive explosion in brain size. For Homo erectus, an ancestor who was almost certainly using fire, had a brain nearly twice the size of earlier hominins. This wasn't a coincidence, it was a direct consequence of cooking. Cooking didn't just feed our stomachs, it fed our minds. It gave us the metabolic fuel needed to grow big, complex brains. And a bigger brain changed everything. It allowed for better tools, more complex problem solving, better planning for hunts. The ability to think about the future and remember the past. A bigger brain is what allowed us to become the dominant species on the planet. And we paid for it with fire. We traded a big gut for a big brain, and cooked food was the currency that made the transaction possible. We are, in a very real sense, the creatures of the flame. Our brains are a biological consequence of a cooked food diet. Without cooking, we would still be on the savannah with small brains, spending our days just trying to chew enough raw food to survive. But the changes weren't just biological. Cooking created a social revolution as well. The act of cooking requires a central place, a hearth. The campfire became the first community center. It was a place to gather at the end of the day, a place for safety, warmth, and light. Before fire, hominin groups likely scattered at night, each individual finding a safe place to sleep. The hearth brought them together. This gathering had profound social consequences. A shared meal is a powerful social glue. Sharing food builds trust and cooperation. It strengthens bonds between individuals. It turns a loose group of foragers into a more cohesive unit, a tribe. And think about the time. Those extra hours saved from chewing had to be filled. What did our ancestors do around that campfire? They probably worked on tools. They probably rested. But it's almost certain that they also communicated. The campfire is the perfect setting for the development of language. It's a focal point where the group is together with their bellies full and time on their hands. There is something to talk about the day's hunt, the location of a fruit tree, plans for tomorrow. You can tell stories, you can pass on knowledge, language is complex, but the social conditions created by cooking are exactly what would have encouraged its development. It's hard to have a deep conversation while you're spending 6 hours a day grinding tough roots in your mouth. Around the fire, conversation becomes possible. Cooking also likely led to a more advanced division of labor. Someone had to gather the wood, someone had to tend the fire, someone had to prepare the food. This encourages specialization and cooperation. It created new social roles and dependencies within the group. Maybe men did more of the hunting, while women, perhaps caring for children, stayed closer to the hearth and managed the cooking. This created a new kind of household economy, where everyone depended on each other in a more structured way. The hunter brings back the meat, but his calories are useless until the person at the hearth cooks it. This partnership is a fundamental building block of human society. So cooking didn't just reshape our bodies and brains. It reshaped our societies. It gave us the hearth, the first home. It gave us the shared meal, the foundation of community. and it gave us the time and the setting for language and culture to bloom. Now, let's go back to the original question. Was cooking the most important invention? What about the others? What about language? That language is fundamental to what we are. It allows us to share complex ideas, to cooperate on a massive scale, to build culture. But could we have developed language without the big brains and the social setting that cooking provided? This cooking seems to be the prerequisite. The brain had to grow first, the social gathering point had to exist first. Cooking set the stage for language. What about agriculture? The agricultural revolution around 10,000 years ago was a massive turning point. It allowed for permanent settlements, cities, and civilization as we know it. But what is agriculture? It's a method for producing large quantities of food, wheat, rice, corn, potatoes that are mostly inedible or have very low nutritional value unless they are cooked. Agriculture is not an alternative to cooking. It's an extension of it. It's a way to secure a steady supply of raw materials for the kitchen. The entire agricultural system is built on the foundation that we know how to cook. What about writing, or the wheel, or electricity? These are all incredible, world-changing inventions. But they are inventions of the modern human mind. They are the products of a large, creative, intelligent brain. And that brain is a product of cooking. We couldn't have conceived of a wheel or a written word if we were still spending half our day chewing with a brain the size of a chimpanzee's. Cooking is a deeper kind of invention. It's not something we created with our big brains, it's the thing that gave us our big brains in the first place. It's the invention that unlocked our evolutionary potential. It's the root of the tree. The language, art, agriculture, technology move, these are all branches. Without the root, none of them would exist. This idea changes how you see the world. It makes the simple act of preparing a meal feel connected to the very core of our humanity. When you chop vegetables or put a pot on the stove, you are engaging in the one activity that more than any other is responsible for who we are. You are repeating the actions that lifted our ancestors out of the animal kingdom and set them on the path to becoming human. Every meal we eat is a testament to that first hominin who dared to eat something that had fallen in the fire. We are biologically adapted to cooked food. In fact, we are now so dependent on it that we can no longer survive on a raw food diet in the long term. Our small guts and small teeth simply can't handle it. We have outsourced a key part of our digestion to a technology outside our bodies, the technology of fire and cooking. We have been cyborgs for 1,000,000 years, our bodies intertwined with our first and greatest invention. So when we look at the grand sweep of human history, from the first stone tools to the latest smartphone, it's easy to be impressed by our technological progress. But we should remember the spark that started it all. It wasn't a cleverly chipped stone or a perfectly round wheel. It was the application of heat to food, an act that gave us energy, gave us time, gave us bigger brains, and brought us together around a common fire. It allowed us to evolve. It's the most important thing we ever learned to do. It's the invention that invented us. The story of humanity is not just a story of tools and ideas. It is, at its heart, a story that began in a kitchen, or at least around a fire that served as one. And every time we cook, we honor that history. We affirm the simple, powerful act that made us who we are.